welcome to Translate This, a podcast about language, culture, life, and the hilarity of it all. I am Melissa with my co-host,
Richard. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great. Good to hear.
Yeah, and I'm excited about what you're about to present.
All right. I'm excited that you're excited.
I have no idea what it's going to be,
We're
but
going
I'm
to
super
maintain the
excited.
excitement.
Yeah.
Well, you want to get into it, or?
Yeah, I mean, our viewers, see, I'm still so new to this whole
I think
podcast
you're putting an
thing.
S on there.
Yeah.
On viewer. That means we have more than one.
Maybe, but they don't view us. They listen to us. So
Yeah.
our listeners,
Listeners.
they can find us at translatethis-podcast.com. And I'll give you some more places you can find us. But that's our website.
Well, they'll find us
Yeah, they will.
eventually.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what are you going to talk about this week? I'm so excited. I have just really been thinking you've been hyping up this topic for me. So.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah.
I have everything up. I'm the hype man.
It's awesome.
No. I'm more of the chill man.
Yeah, but it keeps me entertained.
I'm having trouble telling you the topic. Instead, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
I think that will really clarify what the topic is.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's a question you can answer.
All right.
It's your opinion.
Okay.
If you were going to take a language course,
yes,
would you want it to be 100% in the target language? And when I say those of you listeners who don't know what a target language is, that's the language that you want to learn. So would you want the language instructor to be speaking 100% in that language during the course, during the classes?
Well, that's immersion. And so I would want immersion because that would allow me to have second language acquisition versus foreign language. So let me dissect that for our listeners. So foreign language is sort of like a study of a different language than your native, your first language, the source language, as we say in translation. And second language acquisition is actually learning another language as if you were a native language learner. So immersion is the best way to do that because when you were a child, you learned a language through immersion.
Right.
So I would always prefer immersion, even if it was horrifically difficult, which people, that's why they don't like it. Yeah. They don't like it because they think it's too much and it's too overwhelming.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of research that states a mixed method initially is the best way to go about it, and then full immersion from there forward.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because my goal is to get into the nitty-gritty of the benefits of the mix you're talking about.
All right.
And I want to bring up, what are the misconceptions of immersion that a lot of language trainers, instructors, teachers in primary, high school, all that, had created or had been given this idea that if you're not speaking in the target language 100%, you're doing a disservice to the student. And my goal is to analyze that and bring up some facts that I have found from sources to basically challenge that.
Good for you.
Challenge it because there's a lot of connotations that go with that don't go. It wasn't intentionally brought with immersion teaching, but there were connotations that were brought on culturally that have created problems.
I think I see where we're going there.
And now there's a couple of questions I'm going to say in the beginning to guide what we're going to talk about.
Okay, good.
Right?
And for the listeners that have never heard this before, if this is your first time listening, both Richard and I were foreign language and immersion instructors. Still are to this day, but in public settings, we taught a variety of students, and we have firsthand experience of not just learning how to do this, but also actually doing this in a classroom
and learning through it.
And learning through it.
Yeah. And I benefited so much from my experiences and my failures that I came to be very comfortable at the climax of my teaching career in public education to be around 95%. And that was very intentional. It wasn't like I was 5% lazy and or let's just chat in the native language. No, it was very intentional for specific purposes, not only for language teaching, but also community building. And it's really important. So the two questions that I have that's going to guide our conversation is, the first one is teaching 100% in the target language in the classroom always effective? That's number one.
Mm.
And then number two is much more complex but important. Is there a dominant marginalized culture dynamic? And if those of you who don't understand that, I will explain that and give some examples.
Mhm.
And that's where things get a little bit dicey.
Yeah.
So I have a source. The source is BritishCouncil.org. Karen Dixon had all these really interesting article 2018, which I got a lot of my information from. It also supports things that I have done. So a lot of this is my thoughts but it's supported by experts. And in the article there were 8 reasons to include home languages, or you want to say native language or first language. What do you prefer to say?
I think first language is pretty representational,
Hmm.
because a native language that limits,
Yeah.
because there are children coming into our classrooms
Hmm.
or had come into our
Hmm.
classrooms that learned simultaneously more than one
Yeah.
language,
Yeah. Complex. Yeah.
and then they learned a third and fourth
Hmm.
language.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, yeah, I would say first
Yeah. Home not.
or home language. Again, languages.
Yeah. Yeah. Home
There's
languages.
got to be a plural in there
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a plural. So 6 reasons. I took it down to 6 for time
Okay.
purposes, but also there were 2 reasons that I felt that were easy to combine into one. So I had edited it to 6 reasons to include home languages
Okay.
into the education environment. That sounds great, right?
Yeah.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Producer Lauren, she's giving me a thumbs up. All right. All right. So I'm going to go down this list and interject as much as you want because we all have personal experiences with this.
Oh, yes, we
Mm.
do.
Number one, first reason to include home languages in the learning environment is when we welcome home languages, we acknowledge that multilingualism is a global norm.
Mm.
And what does that mean in layman terms? It basically means that if we, let me give you the opposite of what they're talking about.
Okay.
If you're, let's just say English, because it's the most spoken language, right?
Right. Right
Uh,
now it is.
yes, not always.
Not always.
But like if you have this attitude as a language teacher,
Yeah.
English, everyone needs to learn English. Everyone should be speaking it. So the minute you walk into the door, you better speak English, or you're breaking the rules and you're
Mhm.
breaking our environment that we're creating here, this bubble of all English only.
Mhm.
You're kind of rejecting the reality that the world is multilingual, that we all are living in this diverse world, and that even though our goal is to learn English in that particular example,
Yeah.
we also accept that other languages are important too, and that they
Mhm.
exist, and that they're woven in, and other cultures are woven in English. And so, this number one reason is a much more cerebral way to look at why it's important.
Mhm.
And I'll give you an example. Right now, I have a language course with 2 Guatemalan clients of mine who speak Mayan languages, Quiche and Quechua. They're 2 different languages in Guatemala. And knowing that their languages are not only not spoken in mainstream society in their own country, and it's sometimes looked down upon
Mhm.
many times, I purposely greet them in their language when we log on. We don't walk in the doors anymore because we're digital.
Yeah.
When they log on, and they taught me the words, and so I greet them in their home language, and to acknowledge, just like number one, that their language is important, and
Right.
that their language is part of the environment that I have created
Mhm.
in this classroom, digital classroom, in
Mhm.
a sense, right? So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. That is producer Lauren's given the 2 thumbs up
Oh, got
again.
two.
I really thank you for that because it's it's something that isn't practiced enough
Hmm.
in my experience.
Right.
I remember when I was working at the World Trade Center in Portland, Oregon,
Yeah.
and I remember just seeing the different people coming through, and if I knew how to say hello
Mhm.
in the language
Mhm.
of the person there,
Yeah.
I would say it.
Right. Right.
I'm probably had a horrible accent trying to say it, but I did it.
But they see your effort.
They saw the effort and it was always welcomed.
Yeah.
It was never scoffed,
Yeah.
or looked upon as what are you trying to do?
Mhm.
And especially in your environment,
Yeah.
when I went to the University of North Carolina at Charlotte for
Mhm.
my master's in education,
Mhm.
we were taught to teach in the language of the learner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is an extension of that.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that that is an amazing way to, first of all, what do we know about emotional well-being and learning a language? You
Mhm.
you have to be you have to be balanced, you have to be open, you have to be
Yeah.
able to go into this, right?
Right.
And we had another episode about students with PTSD.
Mhm. Right.
So this is a calmer. This is
Absolutely.
automatically you're bringing down the tension,
Yes.
you're bringing down the stress level of the
Mhm.
person coming in.
And that one more layer of adding of helping them feel accepted,
Exactly.
comfortable.
And
Right.
acknowledged.
Acknowledged. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's great.
Thank you. Number 2, learners learn more when they are able to use their home languages.
Yes, I
And
do know
I'm going
this.
to ask you a question. You're going to laugh at this question. Do you know anyone, Melissa, that likes to verbally process their thoughts?
Well, would she be somebody with the first letter of the word? Let me see. Is it M?
Is she about 2 feet away from me?
So, for those of you who have not figured this part out either, one of the things is probably what's great about being a podcaster now is that I am a verbal processor.
Absolutely, and I love that.
Well, I'm glad you do. I don't know if everybody else does.
I could tell you one of my most successful students, I don't say students, but the learning environments were created because of verbal processors. Their verbal processing
Mhm.
gave permission for everybody else to verbal process in the target language.
I will tell you this right now. I have been accused of that in previous classes, and it had nothing to do with learning language. I believe that I was either that person in your classroom that you loved because they opened up the floor
Yeah.
to ask the teacher anything,
Uh-huh.
or you just wanted to tell them, just please, just shut up,
Well,
please. Because
yeah.
there's the other side of
Y-
it too, and I acknowledge
yes.
that.
Yes.
I've learned
Mhm.
how to curtail some of that,
Right.
and there's a lot of interjection. There's a lot of
Mhm.
learning how to be an active listener,
Mhm. Mhm.
and sort of just continually to verbally process to the
Yeah.
point where people can't even say anything.
Right.
But I do believe that if you are a verbal processor, I believe that it does help in learning a language
Right.
because you're able to make mistakes
Right.
and you tend to not care
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you're so used to processing out loud. For you, it's not necessarily an embarrassment.
Yeah.
You're just thinking through the thought and you're
Mhm.
going with it. So if I want to say, I don't know, and let me just think, oh, I know, this is
Mhm.
the one that I've been trying to correct
Mhm.
in my own home. Instead of saying queso, which drives me crazy for some reason, and it
Mhm.
shouldn't, but
Yeah.
it does because
Yeah.
I always think go right to Texas and
Uh-huh.
Southwest accents and teaching
Right.
Spanish
Yeah.
versus queso.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's driving me insane.
Okay.
So if I'm in a classroom and I'm mispronouncing something
Yeah.
and I do it because I'm just verbally
Right.
processing,
Right.
well, then that's good because then the professor or the teacher has an opportunity to correct what I'm doing or help
Yes.
me or push forward, use it as an example,
Mhm.
and go
Mhm.
on.
Absolutely. I mean, I can go on. We can have a podcast about verbal processors, all the benefits of having them,
Yes.
which is actually important because, like you had alluded to, a lot of educators tend to put them down, tell them they're talking too much and
Yep.
stuff. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
There was a lot of shame
yeah,
in my educational
yeah,
experience. A lot of shame.
yeah, and exactly that's why it's important. But connected to that, when we're talking about home languages,
Yeah.
if you're a student or a
Mhm.
learner in a classroom and you need to process in your home language
Mhm.
a fact or an information
Right.
that you've learned and you need to process that, the teacher should, in my opinion,
Mhm.
allow you to process it verbally because you're a verbal processor.
Right.
So if you're told to not speak your home language in class but that's how you process information,
Yeah.
and you can process it better in your home language. Why would you tell them not to?
That's a very good point because I think in the past we were told to give more wait time,
Mhm.
and that was to accommodate verbal processors
Right.
when they were being nonverbal,
Right.
processing in their head or
Mhm.
maybe under their breath,
Mhm.
mumbling, because
Uh-huh.
most of us do, and then actually state what we wanted to state.
Right.
But that is a makes another problem
Yeah.
because for the wait time
Mhm.
that you need to give a verbal processor,
Mhm.
it could be more extensive
Yeah.
than somebody with just say they have what's considered a learning disability. You need
Mhm.
some wait time for them,
Right.
but verbal processor might need more.
Yeah. And you're gonna
And
get
then it's going to get stagnant.
right.
Your class is going to be awkward and
Yeah.
silence.
Yeah.
So I
Exactly.
hear you. I think that's great that you're doing that. I support letting people talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and we're talking, addressing, like I said, the myth that the classroom environment, the learning environment, has to be 100% target language, and that's
Hmm.
what we're addressing.
Hmm.
Is that there's a lot of teachers out there who see or who think that if they hear the home languages in their classroom, they want to quell it, they want to suppress it, and
Right.
and that's what we're addressing, right?
That happened when I was at the Alliance Française
Uh-huh.
in Lyon.
Oh, okay, it happened.
It would happen because
Yeah.
the classroom would start reverting to English.
And absolutely, and that's my next sub point is
Mhm.
that educators need to find boundaries about when students should use their home languages in class because it can get out of hand.
Yeah.
And this is why a lot of teachers are afraid of it because they can see it getting out of hand.
Yeah.
Everyone's speaking their home language and they're chatting, and now they're so used to it that they're not practicing. And so as an educator, that's the part where they have to create boundaries and create and else maybe create a list of reasons of opportunities of when they can use it.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
Did you do that in your classes? Did you say, "Okay, this is when you can speak in your home language," or under these circumstances, when we're doing this
Hmm.
particular activity,
Hmm.
you would encourage them
Hmm.
to utilize whatever language skill they needed to transfer? Because
Yeah.
I don't know if you're gonna talk about this, but
Right.
when you spoke about
Yeah.
this, it immediately
Hmm.
in my brain
Yeah.
brought up the fact that we know
Hmm.
that the more education you have in your home language or
Right.
in your first, second language,
Yes.
right? And then you're
Yes.
going to the next language,
Right.
the more you can transfer.
Absolutely. That's all been proven by experts.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So, because of that,
Hmm.
you need them to continue to develop
Yes.
their other languages
Hmm.
and process in those other languages to
Right.
make the connections to
Right.
the next language.
Right. And it's boils down your question boils down to respect.
Yeah.
Respect of the expectations
Hmm.
and why you're learning, why you're in that
Yeah.
classroom, and remembering the goal. And so when that is clear, students tend to know when to and when not to speak. They
Right.
know when they've gone overboard and they're disrupting the classroom.
Right.
So no, it's impossible to create a whole list of when you can talk and when you can't. That sounds very repressive in a way, controlling.
Hmm.
But it's about making sure that the respect is there for our goals as a
Right.
class, and then it kind of eliminates the unneeded. And when people go overboard, there are things that I do that I've done that are easy, quick reminders and say, "Oh, is that?" I would say something like, "Is that part of the class, or is that necessary?"
Hmm.
As a question. So it's not being invasive and it's not being controlling.
Or proximity.
Proximity. They just know.
They
They
know.
they already know.
Let's
Yeah.
explain that. So, proximity is the teacher's best friend.
Hmm.
So, if you have someone in your class that's just going off the rails
Yeah.
or they're just distracting others or
Yeah.
they're just not engaged, just walk gently over
Yeah.
and stand next to them
Or
as you
uh
continue to do what you need to do.
or my favorite trick, and it's similar to that, is the Richard smile.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I will if I'm talking, I will stop in mid sentence, smile, and just wait.
Yep.
And then it literally
Oh yeah.
it's so magical.
Oh, it's
It's
completely
amazing.
magical because
Yeah.
then the whole room turns around.
Oh yeah.
But I tend to think that proximity for me
Hmm.
really
It
really is
does.
more engaging.
Moving around, especially, I mean,
Yeah.
it's important for in a physical, obviously
Yeah.
physical. We're in digital classrooms a lot now. And that's an interesting challenge, right?
Oh, I couldn't even imagine how you're
Yeah.
doing it now because
Yeah.
I've not taught online.
There are new challenges all the time.
Yeah.
But
Kudos to you.
yeah, I think, when I see eyes wandering on the
Yeah.
digital screen,
There it is.
I notice it, and then I'll say, "What do you think,
Uh-huh.
so and so?" And I was like, "Oh, what'd you say?"
So you've got to read the room. You got to read the digital room.
Read the digital room, and it's always going to be a challenge, no matter
Right.
how engaging it is. Wherever they're at, in their home, in their
Mhm.
bedroom, in their at their work, they have 20 distractions around them.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be a challenge, and it's a exploration for me to keep them engaged. And luckily, in this environment, they're adults, and that they are very focused on their
Right.
goals. So
But see, for me, when you went, and I'm going to go
yeah,
back to the original
yeah,
question when you asked me if I'd prefer all immersion, and
yeah,
I said the mixed method at the
yeah,
beginning is better.
hmm,
And that I'm going to clarify that because I do believe exactly what you're talking about.
hmm,
I think at the advanced stages,
yeah,
I love it being more immersion
hmm,
because I want to gain more vocabulary. So that's just me personally as a
yeah,
learner. But what methodology is
hmm,
better? You're talking a whole different ball of
yeah.
wax.
What you just said is going to be a part of the second question
Okay.
about the differences. And I'll give an example. When I mentioned dominant versus marginalized,
Yes.
right? That's a big difference from dominant, dominant, where you are from a dominant culture,
Mhm.
your language is dominant, and then you're learning a language that is also dominant.
Mhm.
Most people want 100%. They don't need to be validated. They don't need to be seen as much, or feel that they
Mhm.
have identity, because they
Mhm.
already feel identity.
Yeah.
Identity. They feel part of a community already.
So you're talking about let's just use an
Hmm.
example. Let's talk about Mexican American or newly immigrated Mexican students in Southern California
Hmm.
that has a huge Mexican American
Right.
population and
Yeah.
Mexican culture.
Yeah.
And I'm specifically saying Mexican. I'm not
Hmm.
saying Latin America
Yeah.
because it's very Mexican
Right.
in Los Angeles
Yeah.
and learning English.
Hmm.
And you're saying that they already have such a strong foundation in their Mexican or Mexican American culture that they don't need to be as validated to then go to the English and English classrooms.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to use an
I'm not gonna.
actual example for our listeners as what you mean about dominant
Yeah.
cultures to dominant
I,
cultures.
I prefer to say dominant versus a Mexican, for example, Mexican, because in the Mexican culture, in the Mexican society,
Hmm.
you have different strata, you have different demographics. So, someone who have, for example, native home languages, Olmec, Aztec, things like that.
But just let's
Uh,
okay,
so,
I get
okay, so
that.
they speak Spanish, right?
Okay, they
Okay,
speak
let's
Spanish.
just
Let's
focus on
let's
Spanish.
focus on Spanish.
To me, it's not just language. It's feeling like you're part of a community.
Hmm.
So if you're from, in my opinion, if you're from middle to wealthy class Mexican family,
Uh-huh.
you may not feel the need to be a part of this community,
If
right?
you're in that same type of environment in Los Angeles learning English.
Let's say you're in Los Angeles, you grew up in LA, right?
Or
Is that what you mean?
no, what I mean is you're from Mexico,
Yeah,
you're a student from
yeah,
a middle class, upper middle class community,
right.
and you come to Los Angeles and on par, you're in an upper middle class
Yeah,
community.
yeah,
Now you're learning English because you may have been exposed to it
right.
and learned a lot over there
Hmm.
because most likely you're going to have been taught somewhat,
Yeah, right.
and then you
Yeah.
come over
Hmm.
and you're learning more English,
Hmm. Hmm.
and now you're not going to need to feel as validated
I
because
don't
your
think so.
culture is going to be.
I don't think so.
Yeah, see, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But let's say, and I know that in Portland, I experienced what you're discussing
Yeah.
also because, and we were just talking about this quite hilariously and
Mhm.
adorable. It was very adorable. This is we're talking fifth, sixth graders,
Mhm.
where I had Ukrainian, Russian, and Romanian
Oh, yeah.
students,
Okay.
and then I had a large group of Latinos
Mhm.
that came from all over Central America
Right.
and Mexico.
Yeah.
I didn't have any South Americans in that group, and they would go on the playing ground.
Okay.
And even though within those 2 cultures,
Mhm.
they the Mexicans and the Guatemalans would get in
Mhm.
fights,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And the obvious reasons, the Romanians, the Ukrainians, and the
Mhm.
Russians would not always get along.
Mhm.
Then when they go play soccer,
Mhm.
when that ball hit the pitch,
Mhm.
it was literally Eastern Bloc
Mhm.
versus Latin America.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
just went at it on the
Uh-huh.
soccer
Uh-huh.
field,
Uh-huh.
and the languages that
Yeah.
you heard
Yeah.
were Ukrainians and the Romanians would revert to Russian
Okay.
because it was the common
That's
language,
okay. Interesting.
and all the Latinos would
Mhm.
resort to a neutral Spanish
Yeah,
so they would
okay.
understand each other,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, and
Yes.
this is the twist on all of it, this is
Okay.
why I love language, and I think
Right.
I said this to you, because Romanian is the last Latin language,
Yeah.
they picked up so much Spanish
Mhm. Mhm.
and could understand so much Spanish
Right.
that it was to their advantage to pretend like they couldn't
Uh-huh.
because they knew what the Latin side was
Yeah.
saying in
Yeah.
terms of what they were going to do with the ball.
Yeah.
And then they would turn around and say it in Russian,
Uh-huh.
and they'd get
Interesting.
the advantage to be like, that's what they're going to try to do right
Uh-huh.
now. Go
Uh-huh.
do this instead. It
Wow.
was amazing. It was
Yeah.
amazing watching interpreting happen on the fly like that.
And imagine a kid with that experience,
Yeah.
and all those language. I mean, it's as chaotic as it can be. It's rich in diversity
Yeah.
and learning about how to navigate yourself through all that, you
But
know.
they themselves,
Mhm.
the Romanians, the Ukrainians, and the Russians,
Yeah.
they themselves needed more validation, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They needed more validation and be able to express their own
Yeah.
languages
Right.
because they weren't coming to
Yeah.
a similar community, most of
Yeah.
them.
And that hopefully that explains or puts light on what I'm talking about, dominant versus marginalized.
Yep.
And I do have other examples coming up
Mhm.
to emphasize that fact because this is probably the most important part of the topic is that if your language is dominant culture
Yeah.
and you're going to learn another dominant culture, then there's less issue. There's less issue
Right.
with when you go to a teacher who's like, don't speak home languages here, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
Um, and there's so many examples, sad examples of that happening in our history too. And
Right.
ready for the third one?
Yeah.
Okay. So teachers, here's number 3. Teachers can learn from learners. Oh my God.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, teachers can learn. And yeah, that sounds obvious, but like, okay, so what are they going to learn that's valuable? And how's that going to help? Isn't it going to help the learning environment? Yes.
Yes. Big, big why?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
For those of you teachers who just like, you just want to teach, you want to do a good job
Yeah.
and you don't want to complicate things, learning from learners will make you a better teacher.
Yeah.
Just flat.
Yep.
Just say that straight out. Okay.
And we've all learned more than we've ever taught
Yeah.
them.
Yes. So the more I wrote this, the more the educators understand why certain learners have tendencies in speech can help you create better curriculum, can help you create better lessons because you understand what their tendencies are or their weaknesses are through their speech patterns in their
Mhm.
home languages. So the
Mhm.
more you understand their home languages, the more you can modify your curriculum to accommodate what their tendencies are.
So,
Okay.
are you saying that all teachers then need to be polyglots?
Well, it helps that the teacher that is teaching the target language has a lot of knowledge of and this is a hard part. They might have a class with people from all over the world,
Mhm.
and that's going to be difficult.
Mhm.
Even in my group that I mentioned, the two Mayan clients that I have there, even though they're both Mayan, they speak two different languages. Luckily, there are two, and so I say good morning in two different languages.
Yeah.
But what if there's like 5 or 6, that gets out of control, and that's overwhelming.
Mhm.
But you want to put effort into that, and little by little, you learn more and more,
Right.
and it's got to look at the long game, not the
Yeah.
short game.
And I'm going to go back
Hmm.
to the fact that you're teaching indigenous Mayan speakers. That is no different than saying what I just said about teaching Ukrainian or Romanian
Hmm.
students
Yeah.
or French and Spanish students,
Hmm.
because just because they have proximity in
Hmm.
terms of geography
Hmm.
doesn't mean they understand each other.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, think
Yeah.
about Africa. You
Hmm.
think about all the languages in Africa, and they're
Hmm.
literally down the road from each other,
Yeah.
and they'd speak a completely different language.
Hmm.
So yeah, it would be hard for teachers to gather all of that. But I
Hmm.
applaud you for trying.
Oh, well, any intent, any effort put is seen by your students, and they
Yep.
will appreciate you even more. And when they appreciate you, they learn more and you look better, right?
Yeah.
So, and then another part of that is something called when you are inviting in, allowing in their cultural norms, their languages woven into your curriculum, woven into your environment.
Mhm.
Your you and your students are able to make what's called contrastive elaboration, in which you can actually break down what the differences are in certain like speech patterns and say, oh yeah, this is how it's done in home language, this is how it's done in let's say English. And you see patterns and
Right.
then you're able to learn better that way. It's
Right.
another form of learning.
And you do that, like, when you're learning grammatical structure
Mhm.
or sentence structure?
Yeah, you can. I actually have an example like in Spanish when I'm teaching Spanish speakers.
Mhm.
English, Spanish speakers here's a tendency, is that in English, when they're practicing English, they tend to omit the pronoun. So if I say I'm going to the store, a lot of Spanish speakers will say going to the store,
Yep.
right? And in English, that's impossible for many people to understand what you're trying to say. Well,
Right.
who,
Yeah, who's going to the store?
Yeah,
There's no
and
context.
yeah, exactly. And so when I understand why, when I dig a little deeper into why so many Spanish speakers are omitting the pronoun,
Uh-huh.
then I'm able to create curriculum to help them overcome that. And so they're not just literally translating in their head. I can modify what they're learning
Right.
because that's what their tendencies are. So if I
Right.
know their tendencies, I can meet it with strategies.
That's what I love about Spanish, though, and just I know this is tangent, but I
Hmm.
love the fact that you can use different conjugations
Yeah.
for different tenses,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you don't ever have to use a pronoun
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
word's never gonna be the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
But you can't do that in French.
Yeah. Yeah. I failed at French. But no, there's good things about English too that I see benefits in, but there's both
Mhm.
good in both. Number four, welcoming home languages will involve learners. And maybe this alludes to what we have kind of elaborated before is that when you allow clients, students to speak their home languages, they feel more connected. They
Mhm.
feel more involved. They want to participate more because you allow them to be themselves, right?
Right.
And like I said before, you need to create boundaries, expectations. So that's really important. And I wanted to emphasize that
Mhm.
this number four is important when your students are from marginalized cultures. And I know we've talked about this, and it's
Yeah.
worth repeating.
Yes, it is.
If, and those of you who don't understand the dynamic of dominant and marginalized cultures, if you say that your language, the English, for example, the target language is most important and it's what you need to learn
Mhm.
because you won't survive,
Mhm.
it sends a message that their home language is not valuable.
And
And
and on the flip side of
yeah,
that, when you're teaching
yeah,
Spanish in a public setting
yeah.
to English speakers
Hmm.
who are told that their language is the top,
Uh-huh.
their attitude in learning,
Yeah. Yeah, they're like, "Well, I don't need to learn
they
this."
don't even care,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a complete
Mhm.
resistance on the
Yeah,
other
absolutely.
side
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
they are fighting internally
Mhm.
their
What they've learned.
what they've learned
Mhm.
that English is everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
that their dominant language rules.
Mhm.
So it becomes problematic for both sides.
I wanna, Jim Cummings, researcher,
Love
yeah,
him.
he has a quote I wanna add. He says that English language learners will engage academically
Mhm.
to the extent that instruction affirms their identity and enables them to invest their identities in learning.
Do you know I saw him?
Yeah?
Yeah. And he goes on to say that because he's Irish
Mhm.
and he talks about how they learned Greek
Yeah.
as well as Latin
Yeah.
and Gaelic,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, because of British preventing them from
Mhm.
being able to use Gaelic.
Yeah.
But that's why you go to Ireland and it's so incredibly preserved
Yeah.
because that's part of the rebellion
Mhm.
of saying you're not going to beat our language out of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was probably one of the most influential language teachers that I've ever
Mhm. Yeah.
learned
Great
about,
example.
from.
Yeah. And to know that these battles that we're having in our classrooms are ancient
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
They're they happen in history.
Yeah, from the
Yeah.
beginning of time.
Right. The battle of languages
Yeah.
and oppressing one language over another.
Mhm.
Gosh, there's so much of
There's
that
power in that.
all over the world. And those of you out there who struggle with maintaining interest, maintaining attention with your students, it may be because of this dynamic is off balance, that
Right.
you may have, without knowing, created this dominant feeling that they are not worthy, or their identities are not acknowledged, and so they're going to act out. So
Exactly.
maybe look at that, those of you who are struggling right now with classroom management
Mhm.
and interest levels and stuff.
Mhm.
Anything else? I can go to
Yeah.
number 5.
No, go to my number 5. I mean, I got so much to say. I
Oh,
had so many experiences, but
yeah.
I'm fascinated. Keep
Great.
going.
Oh, this is good. This is great. Seeing and hearing home languages, let's say in a school or even in a training center or any social environment, okay? There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Seeing and hearing home languages can make the environment a safer place.
Ooh, I love that. Okay, so I
Mhm.
do have to interject this
Yep, go
one.
ahead.
So when we were living in Lyon,
Uh-huh.
my husband is much more reserved than I am.
Okay.
He is definitely not a verbal processor.
Okay.
He is very, very well spoken.
Mhm.
When he speaks,
Yeah.
he means what he says,
Yeah.
and it's always very
Thought out.
thought out and
Mhm.
well chosen
Yeah.
in how he orates.
Mhm.
So it's kind of, the opposites attracting,
Yeah,
right?
but it works.
It
Opposites
works.
attract. That's why I
It
said
does. 30 years later, we're still married.
30 years.
But the thing of it
Mhm.
is that when we were living in Lyon,
Mhm.
he was mistaken for being French the
Okay.
entire time because he speaks quietly. Like we were here
Mhm.
talking, he was probably speaking about this level,
Okay.
and he would be very direct, and he
Mhm.
would speak slowly at this
Mhm.
pace, and then he would be quiet unless
Mhm.
you prompted him
Mhm.
to say something. Now, he's not a robot,
Yeah.
and he's very expressive,
Right.
and but when he's in a conversation,
Mhm.
he's incredibly gifted at the art of conversing and being aware of who needs to speak next
Yeah.
and or who needs
Yeah.
to communicate. Also, his background is in special education.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm probably just like one of his students. but
Uh-huh.
but when we were in Lyon,
Yeah.
people thought he was French because the French
Uh-huh.
are by culture,
Yeah.
they're quieter,
Okay.
they're more reserved.
Mhm.
They don't have loud outbursts and
Mhm.
whatnot and whatever.
Yeah.
And then we were walk down the street, and all of a sudden we hear what I call the little parakeets coming down the road, and you
Okay.
couldn't even see them,
Uh-huh.
but you could hear them from around the corner before you even saw them. It was a group of Spanish students
Okay.
that were studying in Lyon,
Okay.
and they were loud and
Mhm.
boisterous and laughing and hilarious and walking down the street, and I'm like, see, that's me over there. I'm
Okay.
like, those are my people.
Right.
And so now that we're in Spain,
Mhm.
I'm with my people, right?
Right.
I'm just like,
Right.
la 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 la, here I am.
Mhm.
And Michael, when we just went to France,
Mhm.
we went to Paris last week, and I'm like, yeah, I'm back with your people now. I have to
Uh-huh.
be like quieter,
Yeah.
be more, more
Yeah.
considerate. And it was so funny
Uh-huh.
to be back in that environment.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think about that. I think about how home culture
Yeah.
in a classroom
Right.
too.
Mhm.
And so anyway, so just to that point, I think it's quite funny to me to know that it was so comforting for me and Leon to hear other people like me. And it
Right.
was so comforting for him
I
to
understand
be
what you're
with
saying
people
now.
that are like him,
I understand what you're saying now.
right?
'Cause, yeah, I was, like, trying to connect it with
Yeah.
what I said, but
That's
now
good.
I get it.
That was because I had to
Uh,
process it.
yeah, but I get it, and
Yeah.
you've touched on feeling comfortable, feeling
Right.
safe,
Right.
feeling, I mean, safe in a way of comfortable, but
Hmm.
there's also safe, physically safe.
Physically safe too.
And
Yeah.
you may relate this, like, traveling to other countries,
Hmm.
but in terms of school, of work,
Hmm.
where there's languages being spoken,
Hmm.
if you're in an environment where the instructor validates home languages and includes it, integrates it, right, then there's less bullying, there's less
Right.
taunting, there's less putting down of other languages, and that hurts a lot of people. I mean, it has an effect,
Oh,
right?
completely.
So then when I say safer space, it's what you said, feeling comfortable,
Hmm.
but also feeling safe that you can express yourself
Right.
without someone berating you or offending you.
But
You know?
that goes beyond language
Yeah.
though.
Right.
That goes to acknowledging culture in general.
Exactly.
And when
Exactly.
taught in North Carolina,
Mhm.
and had nothing to do with language, what I
Right.
was doing there, just acknowledging the different cultures
Mhm.
in the classroom.
Mhm.
People immediately felt more at home
Yeah.
because I understood
Right.
their background, and
Yes.
I acknowledged their background even if I didn't know as much about it as
Mhm.
I'd like to.
Mhm.
And that was also welcoming, and I know that that's what good teachers do.
Yeah.
Good teachers always know their students. They know their history. They read
Mhm.
those files before they set foot in the classroom, those kids, and they know who they're getting.
Yeah.
And it could be all dominant language as well.
Yeah.
Say you're just teaching a classroom of English speakers and you're an English speaker, native English speaker, and you're teaching geometry. You
Mhm.
still need to know all of those students to make them feel comfortable,
Mhm.
and it goes this idea that you have about marginalization,
Yeah.
it extends to socioeconomic
Yeah.
situations and mental health issues. I
Yeah.
mean, it really is a bigger topic, and
Yeah.
you're applying it to language right now.
Yeah.
I get that, but
Yeah.
I mean, you've touched on something so important for educators in general, and that's why I just want to express that because all educators need to do this
Uh-huh.
in any classroom.
Well, and what I want to emphasize is that it's not hard to do this. You
No.
can, like what I just said, I say good morning in Quiche and Kichi, one word, you know, and that one word, if I had, let's say all, let's say I had other students in there who didn't speak those languages, who were speaking dominant language, let's say Spanish in Guatemala, and they're like, oh, they've grown up saying my languages are not important,
Right.
thinking that.
Right.
And for me, as a language instructor in charge of this environment, speaking in that language, in Quiche or Kichi, even one word
Mhm.
validates them and sends a message to
Mhm.
all the other people in that environment that it's accepted and valued. And
Yep.
that's what I'm talking about, devaluing, taunting, bullying. That
Yep.
happens all the time, even with adults.
Mhm.
This is not a kid issue, it's an
Mm-mm.
adult issue.
Mm-mm. Mhm.
So,
Thank you for addressing
yeah,
that.
and it creates a greater learning community.
Yes,
That's
it
what we want.
does.
We want community. Last one,
Yeah.
number 6.
Yep.
Good thing there was an 8, right?
Well, I don't
We're
know. Yeah.
running out of energy here. This one's interesting. In terms number 6, in
Mhm.
terms of refugees,
Ah.
right? We're dealing with a lot of that now, you
Mhm.
know?
The world.
Yeah. Yeah. Refugees are going to be a part of the language learning experience more and more.
Well,
So we
I
have
think,
to,
yeah, it's permanent culture now.
yeah, yeah. However, and we had this topic about refugees in a past
Yes, we did.
episode.
We did.
Check it out
Check
if
it
you have
out.
time, guys. And some refugees are going to stay, some are going to go back. We
Right.
don't know. Some of them have to go back to their home countries to be a part of its rebuilding.
Mhm.
And forgetting their home language is not an option. It's
Exactly.
not, they need to conserve it. So if they're in classes where they're taught or being given this information that they need only to learn the dominant language,
Right.
forget your home language. It's not going to serve them if they have to go back,
No.
and that's valuable. So,
I want to salute Oregon schools because
hmm,
that's my experience,
okay,
and I know that California schools do this as well.
yeah,
Probably, I also know New York schools do this as well, and I can't speak to other
hmm,
states because I haven't experienced that.
yeah,
But I will salute Oregon schools for the fact that there's one district in particular, Woodburn, that's in
yeah.
it's
Woodburn,
south of Portland, north
right?
of Salem,
It's like Central Oregon, kind
Central
of.
Oregon,
Yeah.
yeah. And Woodburn has actually, aside from their what you would call their regular public school,
Hmm.
they have a large community of Latinos,
Okay.
mostly Mexican,
Okay.
mostly from the area of the coastline. And I can't think of the name of the city right now, but anyway, it's on the
Uh,
coastline on the western coastline.
okay.
They're coming up from that area. There's
Lincoln City? No.
no, from Mexico.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not
Oregon.
Lincoln City,
Sorry, my
Oregon.
fault. I
No,
blanked out.
I'm trying to remember the community,
Mm.
but there also is a giant
Mm.
population of Russian, Ukrainian, Romanian
Oh,
students, but
wow.
mostly Russian old believers.
Uh huh.
These are people religiously tied to pre-Tsar, the last
Wow.
Tsar, and they wear head coverings
Okay. Wow.
and they wear long dresses, and they look a lot like what we would consider like Mennonites, that
Okay.
kind of that look.
This has nothing to do with like Russian Orthodox.
No, so
Okay.
it's not Russian Orthodox.
Hmm.
These are the old believers. This is a
Okay.
different thing of Russian religion,
Yeah.
completely different.
Wow.
And they actually this school district is so incredibly attuned
Mhm.
to the fact they have this community
Yeah.
that's intertwined, these
Mhm.
2 completely opposite communities
Right.
intertwined,
Yeah.
because right next to that town,
Mhm.
Woodburn,
Mhm.
is another town that's predominantly German, of
Okay.
German descent.
Wow.
So you have these 3 communities going head to head,
Yeah.
right? They actually give the school district permission
Mhm.
to do different holidays
Okay.
for the Russian community
Yeah.
and then the Latin community and
Mhm.
then the what we call the regular mainstream community.
Okay.
So there are times where
Mhm.
the vacations
Yes.
don't line up, the winter breaks, the
Yes.
whole group is out of school at one
Yes.
point,
Yes.
and because they're honoring their religious values,
Mhm.
and they also make food
Yeah.
that is related to that in the
Oh,
cafeterias, the
wow.
food's different,
That's cool.
which is great. I mean,
Yeah.
when I taught in North Carolina, we had a huge Hmong community there.
Okay.
In the Hmong community, you would see at times you'd have food in the cafeteria
Mhm.
that was an Asian Hmong style.
Right.
It wasn't exactly it, but it was
Mhm.
definitely they were trying,
They're trying.
and they were trying, and I was
Yeah.
like, "That's awesome
Yeah.
that they were doing that."
Mhm.
But then the other thing about Oregon schools that I really like, that I thought was great, not just Woodburn, but in general,
Mhm.
they actually put a lot into practice of what you were discussing. You know, you and I taught mostly, well, I taught mostly in North Carolina, and then also I kind of split between North Carolina and Oregon, but you
Yeah.
taught mostly in Oregon.
Uh, more in Oregon, but I also taught in Virginia and
Yeah,
California.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But in Oregon
Mhm.
schools, what I also like is that they have programs
Mhm.
for immersion, half day
Mhm.
immersion, or they do dual language programs
Mhm.
like they do in California
Right.
and other states and more and more.
Mhm.
And you didn't have to just pick one. Like I taught a bilingual classroom, English and Spanish, but there are other communities that were teaching, and I know in California they're doing it, in particular, they're doing Mandarin and English.
Right.
And I've heard
Mhm.
rumors that there's actually Mandarin Spanish
Mhm.
immersion
Right.
happening.
Uh-huh.
And so they have English as
Mm.
their home language, and
Okay.
they're coming to school and doing half a day in Mandarin, half a day in
Wow.
Spanish.
Wow. It's
And I mean,
fascinating.
that is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think what I've experienced in
Mhm.
public education, when you have systems that acknowledge home languages and home culture,
Mhm.
and they try,
Mhm.
they try to incorporate what we would call the newcomers,
Right.
it makes everything so much better. Like you
Yeah.
said, the bullying rates go
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
You can identify problems, refugees,
Mhm.
the problems that you have just with having people coming in. Again, that goes back to our other topic that we just talked
Mhm.
about with students with PTSD,
Yeah.
displaced
Mhm.
people that don't want to be in a
Mhm.
new environment
Yeah.
and they're just praying, when do I get
Mhm.
to go back home?
Mhm. Mhm.
Those, that makes all those challenges for learning.
Right.
And then you're going through puberty at the same moment.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't
I
even wanna.
mean,
That's a lot to go
teachers,
through.
oh my
High school
gosh.
high school,
Middle school
4
and high school,
years.
yeah.
I don't know how I loved it, but
I know.
a lot of people didn't survive it,
No, no.
teaching-wise.
No,
Yeah.
they didn't. They didn't survive
Yeah.
it at all.
Huh.
But I think, though, that the burnout rate,
Mhm.
as we're seeing in teachers, is because they're not getting information like you're giving today. They're not giving good information about how to work smarter, not
Oh,
harder.
yeah. Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
think that's your whole thing. Like, everything I know about you as an instructor is about work smarter, not
It's
harder.
survival. It's
Yeah.
if you don't, you burn out, and then, the school has to train, another teacher, so the
Right.
students suffer. Obviously the teacher suffers, and then now the new teacher is probably newer
Hmm.
and have to go through the whole thing again.
Did you
So
get pegged, though? I have to ask this question
yeah.
too. Did you get pegged as that multicultural teacher?
What do you mean exactly?
So when people learned that I spoke Spanish,
Hmm.
they immediately, oh my God, what are you doing teaching social studies? And
Yeah.
you need to speak, you need to teach language, you need to teach ESL,
Right.
and I eventually ended up in that arena in
Hmm.
Oregon.
Hmm.
But in North Carolina, when I
Yeah.
taught there, it was always regular mainstream academic.
Hmm.
It was never anything else. And I chose that because that's what I like. That's
Yeah.
my passion. And I ended up falling in love again.
Hmm.
I left the World Trade Center. I was like, I don't want to teach more language.
Uh-huh.
I want to do
Uh-huh.
something totally different.
Right.
But I'm really grateful for the time I had in mainstream
Hmm.
classrooms
Right.
because then when I went into the subject, that matters that weren't,
Mhm.
testing, like,
Okay.
the non-testable
The
subjects,
electives.
the electives,
Mhm.
right? We were able to see the perspective. I was able to see the perspective from both sides. I
Right.
could see what the mainstream classroom teachers were dealing with,
Mhm.
and then also what we were dealing with as elective teachers, where
Right.
our classrooms were sort of like this moment of taking a breath.
Mhm.
You know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they were struggling
Mhm.
desperately
Right.
in mainstream classrooms to keep up with the native speaking
Absolutely.
students.
Absolutely, yes.
And again, for those of you who don't know, it takes a year and a half to every year
Mhm.
for students that are non-native language to learn the same thing from native language. So it takes one kid an academic year to learn something, but
Mhm.
it takes somebody who's coming from a different language
Mhm.
at least a year and a half,
I get it.
right? So
Right.
you're never going to be at the same level. You're going to keep falling behind every year.
Although statistics say once they catch up, then they
Yes.
they surpass, and that's bilingualism.
And that's
That's
bilingualism at its
a beautiful
best.
thing. But
Yep.
yeah, it's a process. It's not like they're going to be
Uh,
brilliant at the beginning. No, it's a process. So
that's why
yeah.
and that's why bilingual education
Mhm.
and different half day programs have become so essential
Mhm.
to address these issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that mixed method. Goes
Mhm.
back to the mixed method that we were
Mhm.
speaking back at the beginning of all of this.
It is, and it's mixed method. It's this diversity of curriculum, diversity of cultures, and how you approach things, how
Right.
you relationship building. All of that is important, and
But
that's why it's so complex, and it's a very difficult job in the end.
yeah, oh,
To put it
completely.
all together in a couple of years to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It took me a long time. I'm not going to pretend that it took me a few years. No, it took me a
No.
lot of years to understand the dynamics that are going on in a classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I'm going to go back to the thing that you said we were going to get
Mhm.
to at the end, and I don't know if we've answered it, and
Yeah.
that's why I'll bring it up.
Mhm.
So when is immersion only appropriate?
If you're in a classroom where the target language, I want to be like scientific about it
Yeah.
because immersion can be different types of environments, right?
Uh-huh.
Different objectives. Um, and the instructor uh, wants the environment to be in 100% target language,
Mhm.
then it's going to be more conducive when the students are from the dominant culture, right? And they're learning another dominant culture. And so that there's less of a need for identity acknowledgement, less of a need of community building, because a lot of students who are from the dominant culture already have community,
Okay.
and they don't need it as much as someone from a marginalized community who look at the target language as a necessity, a survival skill.
Right.
You know, the whole dynamic of that, the difference of that is immense. And it's not easily noticed when you just look at their faces when they
Mhm.
walk in the
Mhm.
door,
Mhm.
you know? And so, yeah, that's where I say it's okay to be 100%. If your goal is 100%, that the students you have teaching are from the dominant culture.
Mhm. Mhm. So if you're a foreign language instructor
Hmm.
in a
Yeah,
classroom setting
yeah.
and you start off with a mixed method and you slowly are progressing
Mhm.
more and more toward complete immersion
Yeah.
because the goal is to eliminate the dominant language and to work in the target language
Hmm. Hmm.
at the end of the course.
Yeah.
So that's a great
Yeah.
methodology, and you're inching your way along
And
as
I,
you go, and you read your
Absolutely.
room, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the
Yeah.
first, no matter what class it is, I start if I am speaking,
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
I can speak in the home language, I'm going to start with that to make them feel welcome and say,
Right.
hey, anytime you need, here's my number. Obviously, I want them to feel welcome no matter where they come from.
Right.
But the methodology changes depending on who these
Yeah.
students are.
And
Yeah.
shout out to all of the schools that are teaching heritage language classes for
Yeah.
academic subjects,
Yeah.
because again, transferring that over.
Hmm.
So don't be afraid, any country out there, aka any education system out there, to teach people in the language that is coming in,
Hmm.
the refugees, the immigrants. Don't be afraid to teach in their
Yeah.
languages if you can do it, because it's only going to benefit your country, because you're going to have an educated population
Absolutely.
that they're going to be able to then transfer that over into their next language. And then you're not going to have to worry about all of the other socioeconomic issues that happen afterwards for lack of opportunity due to language barriers.
In the end, you're going to have more productive citizens
Yeah.
contributing to your society
Yep.
versus rebelling against it.
Exactly.
There you go. Hey,
What a happy note
put
we're
it a
ending on.
little too black and white, but yeah, it kind of boils down to it
It
sometimes.
does. It
Yeah.
does. You have to. People cannot lose sight of the fact that whatever is being taught in an educational system
Mhm.
is for the rest of people's lives.
Absolutely. It's all connected together.
Yeah.
So connected. Wow.
Well, this is great. I love this topic.
I appreciate your engagement. I'm glad you liked it.
I did. Because I was that kid.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I was that kid. I was the ADD kid. So.
No, but
What'd you just say?
I was that. Yeah, exactly. No, I was that kid in that immersion environment. And it was scary as hell. So. Yeah. I mean, so. Yeah, it was great. I loved it. I think that we should always talk about this.
Great. It's about language.
All right. Well, this has been Translate
This.
And again, let me just give you some of our social media look at places. If you can find us on Facebook at translate.this.podcast, which is our Facebook username, Translate This Podcast, when you go to facebook.com. And on Instagram, translate this _podcast. And at our website, I'll repeat it again, translate this -podcast.com. You will find a way to leave us feedback and ask us questions. And you'll also be able to see the really cool artwork that we love.
Right,
we love our artwork.
Shout out to Luis in the department.
Yeah, Luis in the department of artwork there. And we would love for you to give us some feedback in terms of what you even want to listen to in the future. I mean, I think that's great too. I want our listeners to let us know what do they want to know? What do they want us to translate?
Listener engaged and listener involved.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, until next time.
Translate this crotch holding optional. All right. Have fun out there.
Bye.